Rich Hopen, founder of Fi Revolution. Welcome to this free webinar, Getting Financially Fit. I had several goals in mind when I put together this video. The first goal is I wanted to provide you with content that you'd find really interesting and that would motivate you to take action to improve your life. The second goal is I wanted to give you suggestions for what you can do immediately to improve your life. I'm talking about tips to cutting your expenses, reducing your debt, and increasing your income. And the third part of the webinar, I wanted to tell you about the Financial Fitness Program. So the agenda is really broken down into three parts. So the first part is I'm going to explain why we're freaking out about money in this country. So you may think you're the only one that's kind of burdened by money, but I got news for you. If you're in a room of 100 people and you stopped and pulled all those people aside and had a discussion with them one-on-one, 90-some% are worried about their financial future. I've done a lot of research on this issue, and I'm going to lay it out for you, and it's pretty amazing. But you'll see why we're so scared about our financial future. Later on in this webinar, I'm going to tell you I put on an event last January. We had 155 people at the event. It was a 2-day weekend event. The whole first day, we talked about this one issue. And it was as if we sucked the oxygen out of the room. I mean, people were glued to their seats. The other thing that's interesting when talking about Americans and money is, and I call this the last taboo, I think in this country we're open to discuss anything, but we don't discuss our personal financial issues. We've validated that through surveys. We've surveyed hundreds of people and we've asked this question. Which of the following problem would you be least likely to discuss with your friends and your family? Relationship problems, job problems, money problems, or health problems? And 82% say money problems. It's interesting, right? So that'll be the first part of the webinar. The second thing will be real practical tips on, useful ideas, what you can do to spend less money on unnecessary purchases. And then finally, I'll go into the program that we launched. I'll tell you why we launched it. I'll also tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this thing. And I'll tell you about some of the students in the program and successes and challenges they faced. Why are Americans so scared about their financial future? So I'm going to just give you 10 reasons. There's a lot more, but I boiled it down to 10. So the first reason is, and this is pretty shocking, more than 38 million working households have no retirement assets. They've saved absolutely nothing. Now that may be you, but then don't fret if it is, unless you're elderly and you just don't have time on your side. Some of the people in our class, didn't have money either, but they're on a great track now. 92% of working households aren't saving enough for retirement. And that shouldn't be a surprise. If you haven't done this, go online and just Google retirement calculator. There's gazillion of those online, and plug in some numbers. It'll ask you what how much you have saved for retirement. It asks you what your take-home pay is. It gets a sense of what your standard of living is. Put in your age. You put when you want to retire, and it tells you how much money you need to retire. And you'll be shocked. If you haven't done this exercise, if you've avoided doing this exercise, you'll be shocked at how high the number is. And the interesting thing is then if you sort of dig down in the calculator, look at what some of the assumptions are as far as rate of return. What are they assuming? A 5% return, a 7% return, more? What are they using for inflation? So those are obviously key numbers that go into the calculation. But bottom line is it's overwhelming how much we need for retirement. And so this is not a shocking statistic at all. So the question is why? Well, we've undergone sort of quietly a transition from when employers paid for retirement. Up until relatively recently, in 1989, 96% of full-time employees in middle and large-sized companies had their employers pay 100% of their retirement. Those were what's called defined benefit plans, where you knew when you were retiring at 65 or whatever age, you were getting your salary for life. I don't know more than but maybe a handful of people that kind of have this situation. One is I've got an elderly aunt, Aunt Edie, who's a retired high school teacher. I just met a guy this weekend who was a retired electrician, union electrician in New York City. He's got his salary paid until he dies. It's pretty unusual. I don't know of anyone else. All the other public sector employees I know, they're not getting 100%. Some are getting 70, some are getting 60, and it's getting cut back. And we'll get into that in a second. But the bottom line is, now the burden has shifted. So it's no longer the employer's responsibility, it's the employee's responsibility. So there was a survey in the Wall Street Journal not that long ago, and basically, it looked at, I think it was an 8-year period of time, and it said the average, retirement benefits now are like something like $3,800 a year for companies that pay for it. So it ain't like the good old days. 92.4 million mutual fund owners in the U.S. And we don't pay much attention to what we pay in fees, whether for the funds or if you have a financial advisor. Because you're looking at 2%, 2.5%, 3%, and it doesn't really sound like a lot of money, right? But if you know what compounding interest is, you know that over a period of time, that 2% can turn into a big number. If you take a young person in their 20s, let's say they start putting money aside for retirement for 50 years, they don't need it till they're in their 70s, 50 years later, and the fee is 2%, that actually turns out to be 64% of the monies in the investment that went to fees as opposed to going to him. You may know of John Bogle. So he's the founder of the Vanguard Group. So it's the world's largest supplier of mutual funds. And he was really the pioneer of index funds, which is basically mutual funds that you're essentially betting on the U.S. Economy, not on just a particular sector or a particular company. So he pioneered that years ago, and that's obviously a very popular way for people to invest for the future. So I love this quote from him. Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return? It's kind of crazy, right? Next time, if you do have funds and you get your monthly statement or quarterly statement, look for it's usually called the MER, management expense ratio, and try to figure out what you're paying in fees. Or if you have an advisor, ask those questions. So it's pretty cryptic the way these companies report this stuff, and there's been legislation to change all that. Next thing is all the money that's owed to state and local governments for employee pensions. So this is a very timely issue. I live in New Jersey. Just this week, a lot of news about Governor Christie submitting his budget and issues as to what he was going to pay for the state employee pension funds. The state and local governments they don't have the money, and they're essentially keep kicking the can down the road. So this is problematic in some cities. 3 cities went bankrupt as a result of this: Detroit, Vallejo, California, and Central Falls, Rhode Island. If you're young and you work for a local government or the state government, I wouldn't bet so much that things are going to be secure for you by the time you're 65. Okay, and then people have private pensions, right? 43 million people have private pensions. Those are insured by a governmental agency called the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corp. And there are 43 million Americans that have this. The problem is that PBGC has a deficit of $34 billion. So that means deficit means that they spend more per year than what they bring in. $34 billion. General Accounting Office, which is an arm of Congress that do analysis of different issues, and they said the financial future is uncertain for this entity. So that's not real comforting. Social Security is in trouble also. In as soon as 18 years, it could run out of money. And a lot of people don't realize this. Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system. what I thought, and I think what most people think is, throughout your working career, you've paid into the Social Security system, and that money is kind of being parked there for you for your retirement. There's no account somewhere that says Richard Hopen's retirement money is being held. It doesn't work that way. So any money you put in the system goes to pay people that have the need now. So in theory, it makes sense. By the time you're in retirement years, you've got employees who are working then who are paying for your retirement. It sounds good. However, there's a problem. And the problem is just its demographics. There are going to be too many baby boomers retiring, and there won't be enough working people to pay for their retirement. Today, there's 44.7 million U.S. residents who are 65 and older. In 25 years, there'll be 79.1 million. However, so you look at that rate of growth from 44.7 million to 79.1 million over this 25 years, rate of growth of the working age population, and it doesn't compare at all. There aren't going to be enough people working to pay for the retirement. So this is going to be a huge issue. I'm kind of scared about this for this country. College. We all know college costs, they're crazy high, right? It doesn't make any sense. The cost of college has risen much more than inflation and much more than healthcare over the past 30 years. Tell a young couple with 2 kids what they need to save for college today. For their kids that are born today, $750 a month to fund 4 years of college at a state school. So a new couple with a newborn, that's what you need to save. $750 a month per kid you want to send them to a state school. Want to send them to a private school? Double that. To $1,500 a month. You have more than one kid? Multiply it by whatever number that is. That's a big friggin' number for anyone, let alone a couple just starting out, trying to save money for, let's say, a house. But most likely, they're probably paying off their own college loans. The kids that are college students and college grads and college dropouts who have student loan, and the debt for student loan is just now it's $1.3 trillion. Credit card debt in this country is $891 billion. So student loan debt is even greater. The default rate is much, much higher than credit cards. The last reported result was 14.7, which was actually, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's much higher than that, but that's the last officially reported result. The other thing that's interesting is the rate of first-time homeowners among college grads is less now than with people that don't have a college degree. Why is that? It's the debt that they owe on their student loans. Okay, so now I want to talk about the U.S. debt crisis. Okay, so this is not being addressed by Washington. We don't hear much about it. This is a really big issue, and I want to try to explain to you. I want to put this in context. Let's look at an individual. Let's take a look at this guy, okay? He earns $31,000 a year. He spends $36,000 a year, okay? So right there, that's not good, right? And he owes $181,000. So he spends more than he earns. He owes about 6 times what he makes every year. Think about your debt and think about what you make a year. So this guy, 6 times what he makes a year. How's his situation look? Not real good, right? So if he's single, I don't think too many girls are going to be chasing after this guy, right? His prospects aren't looking good. So that's his situation. Now, I'm going to turn to the next slide, and I'm going to show you what's going on with the United States government. So add 8 zeros to the end of each number, and here's what we have. So now, instead of that guy earning $31,000, we've got the United States government taking in revenue of $3.1 trillion. So that's money that's coming in, tax revenue that's coming into the coffers of the United States government. The government spends $3.6 trillion. So that's money that's going out. And they owe $18.1 trillion. Debt now is twice as high as it was in 2008. What does all this mean? How's this going to impact the government? So we're in debt and we're going to have more debt. So how's this impact? Well, here's what's going to happen, according to the Congressional Budget Office. It's going to be harder to use tax and spending policies to respond to economic downturn. So what the heck does that mean? Well, think back to 2008, how the government stepped in and basically saved our economy because things were looking dire, right? Had the government not stepped in, we'd be living in a whole different world right now. So we'll lose that ability. The other thing is, if there's a military aggressor, we won't be able to respond effectively. So these are 10 things that are scary, scary facts. Most people aren't aware of them. So where does that leave you other than feeling kind of depressed? Well, here's kind of the point of all that. Who's going to solve your financial problems? It's not going to be the government, right? Your employers have turned it over to you to save for your retirement. So it's not the employers. Unions, maybe, actually, if it depends what union you belong to. I know if you're an electrician in New York City, you got a pretty good situation. I don't know about other unions, but for the most part, you can't count on the unions to take care of you. Your financial advisor is just there to advise you and make a fee. So, you can't count on them to solve your problems. Your parents, if you're young enough to have parents alive who are working hard enough for them to kind of plan for their own retirement, so you can't count on them. And your kids, unfortunately, are going to be in a much worse situation than we're in right now. So, who's going to solve your problems? You will. That's right. What do you do about all this? You get educated, and you come up with a plan, and you take action. It's really that simple. But you need to pay attention to these issues because they're going to impact you, they're going to impact your family. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you some techniques to help you save money, reduce your debt, and increase your income. First, and this is probably the most important thing, is you need to know where your money's going. So we had students in our program, but they'd come into our office. First thing I'd ask them was, what are your monthly expenses? And they'd give a number. Let's say, what, 4,000, 8,000, it didn't matter. They'd give me a number. And then we kind of would go through a whole process of collecting the actual numbers, pulling it all together into categories, and coming up with what their monthly expenses are. And what people don't really think about, they know what they pay every month in rent or the car payment or the mortgage payment, but they don't think about the payments that are not, monthly payments. So typically, like replacing tires on your car, or if you have to repair your roof, if you own your house. One of the biggest overlooked expenses are for young couples, young people, are weddings. They go to weddings. Their friends are getting married, and they'll fly somewhere, and then they have to, for the women, they have to, buy clothing and, get gifts and then there's the engagement party. So those are big expenses. Holiday dinners is another huge one. That is really, really important to understand that. I mean, that's the first step before anything. And how do you do that? Well, you track your expenses, and you can, if you've got a smartphone, which you probably do, you can just Google apps to track expenses, and there's a ton of them out there. Every time I look, there's some more out there, and a lot of them have really good reviews. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you can use an app. If you pay with, most people don't use cash as much, so you can track everything on your debit card or your credit card. Some people take pictures of receipts. Other people write them down. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that start tracking your expenses. And the main benefit of doing this, besides it being interesting, it forces you to stop and think about a purchase. There's so many things we do automatically, we don't even think about it. You're in a store and you see something on the shelf, one of those point-of-sale racks, you just get something. Or you're driving by Dunkin' Donuts and you just spend $5-6. But when you start writing everything down, all of a sudden you become conscious of these habits that you have. I want to tell you a little bit about a guy that came into our class. This isn't really the guy, but it's a good picture. Kind of looks like him, actually. We talked about frugality with him, and there's a lot of negative. In fact, I think there's primarily negative connotations with the word frugality. That's kind of frowned upon in our society. It's not a good characteristic, right? I want to kind of flip your thinking on this and start thinking that it is a good thing. And let me give you an example. So there's this guy. He's about 28, and he's in sales. After taxes, he brings home about $42,000 a year. So that's $20 an hour. That's what it comes out to. Okay? So we had a discussion with him. We went through his expenses, and he spends $15 a day on coffee, lunch, and snacks. And we had a whole discussion about this, a rather lengthy discussion. And he just said, it's only $15 a day. I mean, I need to get coffee in the morning. I need to have lunch. And, sometimes I'm working until 7. I need to stop around 3 or 4. I need to get a snack. So we got out the calculator and we just kind of did some numbers. So we said, okay, so you're spending $15 a day and you work, I don't know what we use, 50 or 50, we probably use 50 weeks a year. We said, okay, so you're spending $3,750 on food. That's more than 1 month of his take-home pay. So that kind of got his attention. It's like, okay, Nick, dude, you're spending, imagine working a whole month and taking all that money and then buying, coffee, a protein bar, and whatever you buy for lunch. So that got his attention. There was another kind of angle with him, which is interesting. He's 28, but he's very ambitious. His goal is to be financially independent when he's 40 years old. So he's told me that, and I'm proud of him. Not many 28-year-olds are thinking that way, especially this day and age. And he's going to go that route by investing in rental properties, which is something that I believe in, and a lot of people in our group believe in, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But someone that's into rental properties, they're thinking one thing, and that's cash flow. What kind of money is being generated from your investment every year? Let's say you're making a 4% return after taxes. You said, okay, how much principal do you need? So how much money do you need at a 4% return to generate $3,750? So the answer is $93,750. That's how much money he would need in principal to cover his little snacks and stuff. So, and what's $93,750 mean to him? That's 2.5 years of his take-home pay. So I hope you followed that, but basically I'm just kind of putting that small expenditure in context. It really resonated with him, and it changed his behavior, and ever since then, he eats breakfast at home, he makes coffee at home, brings that on the road, and he brings his lunch with him every day. Those little expenses, that adds up and adds up over time. And I don't care how small the expense is, but just track it and become aware of it. Okay, I'm going to tell you something that I did. I live in a town in New Jersey that has Fios, which is Verizon, high-speed fiber. And they bundle the services. So it's $99 a month. Your telephone landline, internet service, cable television. We don't watch that much television, and I was watching the behavior of my kids, and they were watching Netflix or Hulu Plus, which is, I don't know, $7-8 a month each. And then the landline was something we almost never used anyway. We all have our own cell phones. We decided to cut the cord. When we did it, it was kind of unusual. Not many people were doing it. The way I presented this to my family, really my wife, who was the co-decision maker on this, was that I said, look, if we take that $124 a month that we're paying to Verizon, and by the way, we just cut the cable and the landline, so we kept our internet connection with them. I said to my wife, look, if we could save $124 a month, and we take that money and we use that towards the principal on our mortgage, we're going to cut 16 months off of our mortgage, which all of a sudden, well, that's very significant. So she was like, yeah, let's do that. And then actually after I did that, someone told me that you can get those digital TV antennas. You just plug right into your television. You can get great reception on the major networks. So I did that, went to Radio Shack, bought that for like $20. And the other thing is if you watch shows, like I'm a big fan of some of the shows on AMC, Breaking Bad when that was on, and now Better Call Saul. You can buy that on Apple iTunes. You can buy the whole season, 20 some bucks. So it's definitely a great way to save money. Now I'm going to tell you about 2 students in our program of how they eliminated $20,000 in credit card debt. So these guys are awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about them. They're in their early 20s. They're engaged. They've been living together. And they really were anxious to kind of move on with their lives. And they both came from families that, parents and family members didn't really talk about money. What they decided to do was to make a major shift in how they viewed money, and they wanted to get out of credit card debt. And so this is about the time that they came to our event, which again I'll talk to you about in a minute. They did a whole bunch of things, and I'll tell you what what they did in a second. But let me tell you the result is they got rid of the $20,000 in credit card debt. Their credit score, which wasn't that great, all of a sudden now was terrific. All their debt's gone, credit card debt and any personal debt that they had. And they live in a small apartment right now in Newark, and they're in the process of buying a two-family house in a much nicer town. And the rent they're going to get from their tenant covers a good portion of the mortgage, so out of pocket every month, they're going to be spending less than what they're paying right now. They're just a great, great success story. I asked them, I said, how do you guys do it? So here's their advice. And this is what they're telling their friends too and their relatives. So the key thing is tracking their expenses, as I was saying like 10 minutes ago. So what they do, and this is cute, they have a ritual. I mean, every day they sit down at the kitchen table and they open up their wallet and they take out their receipts. And they tell one another what they spent that day, every single expense. So, and they've been tracking this, and they have a chart on their wall in the kitchen which shows their progress, how their expenses have gone down, and they've used that money to pay off their debts. So they track all their expenses. The other thing is they said they stopped wasting money. So as I was saying before, they were buying things that were kind of frivolous, the coffee, things that they didn't need to buy. They made a list, they make a spreadsheet of all the debts that they had, all the balances and interest rates. And they had a lot of cards and they didn't really know what they had. And they said just seeing that on paper was really, really powerful. And then they did what they could do to lower their interest rate. So they had to transfer money to a lower interest card. So they have money in a savings account earning nothing, but they've got credit card debt where they're paying some crazy high rate, 20%, and they're earning like 1 or 2% on their savings account. So that doesn't make any sense. So they were paying off. So they used some of their savings, which was earning nothing, to pay off their credit card debt. So if they're paying 20% interest on their credit card, and they're earning 2% in their savings, and they take that money, so they've just got and they use it for the pay off that debt. They just made an 18% return on that money. If you've got credit card debts, you line them up, and you pay off the ones with the highest interest. I don't really care what the balance is. That doesn't really matter. Just pay off the ones with the highest interest, because those are the ones that are costing you more. They've got a philosophy now. They don't buy anything if they don't have the money for it. It's that simple. And now I want to talk about income, and I want to give you some suggestions about getting a raise. So I wrote a blog post, which is on my website, firerevolution.com, and it's all about this. I call it the 7 don'ts. You're about to meet with your boss and discuss a raise. I'll tell you 7 things not to do. So number 1, don't discuss personal financial problems. So the main reason is, and I'll give you the perspective as an employer who's employed people, and I've also been an employee, but from an employer's perspective, this is really a losing argument because it won't serve you. So it doesn't make you look good. It makes you look weak. It makes you look irresponsible with your money. And quite frankly, it's not really relevant. It's not relevant to the company that you've got financial issues. So that's harsh, but that's reality. The other thing is the employer might be thinking, hey, dude, I've got financial problems too. Okay? We all do. But, just because you're making less than me doesn't mean that I don't have them. And, so it's not, I don't think you should bring it up at all. I think it's bad. The second thing is, don't discuss other employees' salaries. I know how tempting that is if you're a hard worker and you know the guy at the workstation or office, next to you or down the hall is making more money than you. Don't bring that up in your negotiations. So because what it does is it will put the employer on the defensive, which is not what you want. It also shifts the conversation from you and why you deserve to get a raise to someone else. And you don't know what happened. You don't know why that employee's salary is higher than you. Maybe before you joined the company, they had some amazing years, and they just got a raise back then, and it's just the salary levels continued, or maybe that for political reasons they're the relative of an officer of the company. Whatever it is, you probably don't know why, and again, it's not relevant. Third, don't ask for a raise that's out of whack with the market or the economy. So here's an example. So my wife's a nurse, and I was talking to a friend of hers who's a nurse also, and she recently was promoted to become a nurse manager. And she was telling me that she has saved the hospital, I don't know, like $250,000 the year that she was a nurse manager. And she was very proud of that, and she wanted to ask for a pretty significant raise. And I don't remember what the amount was. Let's say it was $20,000. And I said, okay, well, that's interesting. So you want a $20,000 raise. You brought a lot of value to the hospital. That's great. If you were to get a job at another hospital, what kind of salary could you get? And would it be at least that extra $20,000 that you're asking for? And she said no. She said no way. So my point to her was like, look, you have to put your salary in the context of the marketplace. So if you were to leave where you are today and you were to go somewhere else, some other company or entity that's sort of at a comparable level, what kind of salary would you be making? So you have to keep that in mind, because it wouldn't make sense for an employer to pay you some crazy high salary if they could just hire someone else for what they're paying you, or a little bit more or a little bit less. Okay, don't ask for a raise, if the company that you work for is having tough times. So you need to be aware of that. Okay, so if there's layoffs going on and they're cutting expenses, and you go in there, standing tall, chin up, chest out, asking for some big fat raise, they're going to look at you like, what, are you out of touch with what's going on around you? So just you need to be sensitive to that. The other thing is, don't forget about the non-money parts of your job. So, is it a great company in your industry? Is it a company that's got a lot of respect? Is it a company where there's a lot of room for advancement? Do you like working with your boss? Is your boss a good guy? Do you have a great relationship? Do you love your employees, your coworkers? How's your commute? What kind of benefits does your company offer? So all these are really important factors that need to be considered. So it's not just about your salary; it's all these other things. Be prepared for the meeting, and if you sign up for the course, I'll go through some all these different things you need to do to position yourself so you are super prepared. But you need to lay out all your arguments. You need to rehearse it, and you need to go in there forcefully and confidently and explain why you deserve the raise. If you don't get it for whatever reason, this is a really hard part, but you need to leave the meeting with your head held high, leave it in a professional manner. Do not get upset, and do not get angry. It's going to be hard. Be professional, stand tall, breathe deep, look at your boss in the eye, firm handshake. Thank you very much. You can ask a question like, what can I do going forward so that the next time we have this conversation, you'll be able to grant me a raise. I'm going to wrap up by telling you about the financial fitness program and why I started the business. So I didn't tell you about who I am early in this, but let me tell you right now briefly. My background, I'm a lawyer by training. I started out in the public sector, worked at the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, D.C., I also worked up on Capitol Hill for a congressional committee. And then I was in private practice. I had my own environmental law firm for a number of years down in Florida. I had corporate accounts, Waste Management, Rolls-Royce, Motorola, Kmart, Westinghouse, Blockbuster. I had great clients. So that was kind of my first phase of my professional career. And then I ended up getting into commercial real estate. And again, it kind of had a corporate practice, had big corporate accounts. They were national accounts. I opened up my own firm. In 2012, I handled one of the largest lease transactions in downtown New York City. Also handled one of the largest transactions in Tampa, Florida. So I won awards. I was a top broker. And I achieved a personal financial goal of making over $1 million, bringing home over $1 million in 1 year. So I did that. It was a great year. And then something weird happened. When I physically got the checks and put them in my account, I was actually a little depressed because my mom had passed away about 5 years ago, and she was one of my biggest fans. And I felt saddened that she wasn't alive to kind of share this moment with me. I had all this money in my account. Kind of opened up my spreadsheet and I started taking a look at some things. And I got really bummed out. So I went from a millionaire to feeling broke. in like 30 minutes. And that's because Uncle Sam in the state of New Jersey takes more than 50%. Boom, that's gone. Okay. Then I have kids in college. So my oldest daughter goes to an expensive private college. And tuition, at that time she was a freshman, so I had 3 years of her tuition. Tuition at like $55,000 a year times three. Okay, that's a lot of money. I had another daughter who's in college at a state school, but she's $25,000, $30,000 a year. Plus, my wife's in college getting her master's degree. And I have a son who's in high school, and his college is going to be coming up. And then, my retirement is not fully funded. So all of a sudden, I'm realizing, where did it all go? And I was kind of freaking out. Like, how could this be? I had a phenomenal year. I won awards. I was at top, absolute top at my field. I'd earned more that year than 99.5% of Americans. And I was feeling dead broke. Now, my focus kind of throughout my professional career was I want to make more money next year than I made this year. Here I was, I've just made a boatload of money and I was distraught. And I did what you were supposed to do, right? I had a financial planner. The only debt I had was my mortgage, and so I didn't have any credit card debt. I was always maxing out my IRA, my 401k, and I sat down with a friend, dissected my situation, and we came up with some answers. What I had done wrong, what should I have done? And we came up with a plan, like a plan for me 20 years ago. I think, well, we could probably help a lot of other people. We felt really confident that we came up with some good ideas. I wasn't interested in becoming a financial advisor or planner and making money by charging a fee on managing assets or earning a commission on any investment products that I was selling. I wasn't interested in that at all. I just wanted to kind of share what we had learned with some people. So what we did was we invited 10 people into our office, and we talked to them about money and their expenses, and we gave them a lot of great ideas and suggestions, and they loved it. And then we decided, okay, well, this is cool. We helped 10 people. Let's ratchet this up a little bit. So we rented out a high school auditorium, and we had what we called a financial fitness event. This was January of last year. It was 2 full days. We had 650 people who registered for the event. It turned out to be a snowy weekend, but 155 people attended. The event was a huge, huge success. People loved it. They gave us great reviews. Here are some of them. And then out of the event, we offered a program. It was a 12-month program and just heavy in education. And then we'd help you put together your personal financial fitness plan. Third, there'd be some coaching. And fourth, community. So you'd be in this class together. You learn from each other's challenges, each other's success. We charged $5,000, and we got our first class of students. The program lasted a full year. I talked about Robert and Tatiana. They got rid of all this credit card debt. They're excited about their future. The relationship is stronger, so they're talking about money, and they're in this path, and they're awesome. Ray had 5 credit cards. The balances were really high. Those are done. He's a different person now than he was a year ago. And we actually had a videographer, and so we've sort of tracked everyone's progress, and you can see it in his face. So he's this confident guy right now, whereas before he felt scared. His life is completely turned around. Talitha, I love this quote. So she's not worried about having to use her tax refund to pay off bills. And so she's on a great track. Kathleen, very smart woman, always overwhelmed by financial issues. She's making tremendous progress, and she's very confident about her future. Jim and Donna, they've been married, for a while. They never used to talk about money. Now they talk about money, and they're working together. So those are the students in the program. What I did was I took that 12-month program and I converted it into a 10-week program, and that's what I want to tell you about right now. But I kept the 4 key ingredients of the program that we had. So there's the education piece. There's the plan, which is the roadmap, which is really essential. And this is what drove people to exceed every single month. And that's their plan. Third, the community aspect has been key for these people. And we're going to do that online. And then fourth, there's a coaching aspect for some of the programs that I'm going to be offering. I'm going to go right now into what is covered in the program. Week 1, creating a new attitude about money. Week 2, is the beginning of the financial fitness plan. So we're going to gather documents. We're going to walk you through what you need to do. We're going to be covering income, savings, investment, assets, and and that's be the first part of the plan. This is the hardest part. It's getting all your stuff together and taking you're getting naked and you're looking in the mirror. And it is what it is. So that's what's happening here in week 2 and week 3. So we cover all these things, expenses and housing and debt, and then we start looking at the numbers and you come up with a plan. Then week 4 we get into the specifics about cutting your monthly expenses. And we also start analyzing your expenses against income, where to cut, what's easy. There'll be some really obvious things. I mean, a lot of people have charges that are taken out of their credit card every month for stuff that they don't even use. So, I mean, that's easy stuff, and then other stuff becomes more challenging. So week 5, I'm going to jump into some big expenses. So it's the car. I know a lot about buying cars, whether it's a used or new car. So this in and of itself can save you thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So it's kind of weird. You can go into a car dealership and 2 people buying the same car, one person can spend $4,000 more than the next guy. So I'm going to teach you how to be the smart guy when you're buying a car. So something like this pays for this program many, many times over. And then here we're going to talk about college, walk you through kind of how to minimize the expense of college. I'll give you a different perspective on it. And for those of you that have student loans, there's a lot of strategies you can do to help out with that. That's college. 7, taxes. So huge expense. It's a great mystery to most Americans. They view this as an inevitable evil. Only think about it around tax time. Maybe now you're starting to think about it. And people just take their money, their H&R Block or their accountants, and just pay whatever they need to pay. So the idea is to be smart about your taxes, to know about things before, and not just spring of every year and figure out what you can do to save on that taxes. So it's like going to a doctor for a physical and you're out of shape and overweight and unhealthy, and you expect the doctor to do something about it, but he's just reporting back to you. The idea is like throughout the year, figure out what you need to do to lower your tax bill. And I've got some great insights from an accountant that I'll share with you. Debt, we'll talk about that. Credit card debt overwhelms us. We talked about earlier, $891 billion in credit card debt. There's a lot of things you can do beyond what Robert and Tatiana did to help you get rid of your credit card debt. Also talk about credit score and how that's important. And then we'll talk more about increasing your income, what you can do. I'll talk about personal branding, what you can do in your field to become better known with LinkedIn. It's really, really powerful tools out there. And then we'll also touch upon some ways you can supplement your income, which some of our students have done. So, and then week 10 is you'll be ecstatic with the changes. Within 30 days, you're going to feel great about the program. That's why you'll have a money back guarantee up to 30 days. 2 of the programs offer a week 11 and a week 12. Week 11 is how to land your dream job or a dream client. When I was in commercial real estate, I was selling to very large corporations and got face-to-face in front of executives at huge companies where I previously didn't have any relationship, any connection. And these are tactics and strategies, and I'm going to share those with you. And you can use those same methods to get in front of a decision maker for a company that you aspire to work for. Or you could do it like I did and use it to get a client. So it's awesome stuff. I'm really excited about sharing that with you. So that's going to be week 11. And then week 12, and I mentioned this before, I'm going to talk about passive income real estate. This is not a real estate investing class. Here I want to introduce the concept, building passive income through real estate. This is going to be a good overview. Not just an overview, I'm going to get into some details. I'm going to show you spreadsheets, and we're going to do calculations, and it's very persuasive, and you'll come away thinking that, hey, I should really look into this. So that's the classes, that's the online classes. And another important part of this program is the community. You need to be around people that are like-minded, people that want to cut their expenses, people who think frugality is sexy. You want to be surrounded by those people. So that's the purpose of community, and there'll be an online community. People will ask questions, they'll share their stories, challenges. I'll be moderating it, I'll be participating. It's going to be awesome. So you're really kind of going through a process where in this program you're rewiring your brain, you're rewiring the way you're thinking about money. And you'll see others around you, family members and friends, don't really think like that. And you may feel alone, depending upon the people who you surround yourself with. So that's the point of this community, so you'll get support. Coaching. As you're going through the material, inevitably you're going to have questions. You may not understand some of the material, you may have questions about that, Or, of course, you'll be thinking about how the material applies to your individual situation. So you can ask me any questions that you want in the online forum in our community. I'll be moderating that community and I'll answer your questions. For those of you who sign up for the advanced program or the VIP program, there will be one-on-one coaching time with me. And I'll talk about that in a minute as I go through the different programs and the pricing. There are 3 commitment levels in the financial fitness program. Let me go through them one by one. The first plan is a basic plan. It's normally $299, but it's available for $249. This plan has a 30-day money-back guarantee, as does the advanced plan and the VIP plan. It's an unconditional money-back guarantee. If my program doesn't turn your financial life around, then you should get your money back. I'm offering this because I am very, very confident that this program works. I have the evidence. If you haven't checked out the reviews on 5revolution.com, do so. You'll see how impactful the program was for those who signed up. And they are raving fans, and I want you to be one as well. Look, I know the value you'll get out of this program will far exceed what you pay, and that's why I'm offering you the 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, let me go through the specifics of the basic program. You have unlimited access to the course videos, and you can watch them on any device, your computer, your iPad, your iPhone. And when you start watching on one device and you stop, you can pick up watching on another device. It's a great technology platform that hosts the program. You'll also receive an outline and notes on each class. The classes are roughly an hour long. Some might be a bit shorter, others longer. Each class will be divided into sections. Many of the classes include workbooks. There will be questions for you to answer, and this will allow you to get a lot more value out of the program. And this is especially true for the financial fitness plan, where you'll spend time pulling together information from your own sources. Plus, you'll have access to the online community. As I mentioned, this is an important part of the program for many of the students. You'll get a tremendous amount of value out of seeing the questions that they have, the challenges they're facing, and also the wins that they've achieved. And then there are the 10 weekly classes I just went through. So that's the basic plan. The next plan, which is the most popular, is the advanced plan. This is normally $650, but it's been reduced to $499. And of course, the 30-day money-back guarantee applies to this program. The advanced plan is everything that's in the basic plan, plus bonus class 1, how to land your dream job or dream client using the advanced selling techniques I've used over many years to land high salary jobs and great clients. This is super valuable, and it's a great part of the program. If you get a higher paying job or just one good client, if you're in sales, the value will be much more than the $499 you paid for the program. The second bonus class will discuss owning rental properties. You'll find it really interesting, and you'll be exposed to the reasons why so many people achieve financial independence through real estate. And in addition to the 2 bonus classes, there's private coaching. You'll have 2 30-minute one-on-one sessions with me. Most people want to use this time to discuss their personal financial fitness plan, but you may decide to use the time to discuss a strategy to get a raise at work or finding a better paying job. It's up to you. You can use the 30-minute coaching session anytime during the program. So that's the advanced plan. And there's the VIP plan, which is $999. You get everything I just discussed in the advanced plan. Plus, I will spend time reviewing your draft financial fitness plan before our first 45-minute conference call. During the call, we'll have a discussion, and I'll be providing you comments and suggestions how to improve your plan. And after the call, you'll work some more on the plan and make adjustments. Then we'll have a second 45-minute call to go over the changes that you made and then finalize the plan. So these are the 3 commitment levels of the financial fitness program: the basic, the advanced, and the VIP. Next to this video, there's a button that will take you to a page that will have a sign-up button for each of these programs. You can read the program description and decide which of the programs seems to be the best fit for you. Over the course of the last 45 minutes, I've provided you with a lot of information. If you've learned a lot, if you like what I've shown you, and if you are ready to change the way you think about money, and you're ready to take control of your future, then sign up now. This program works, as you saw with the students I profiled. Plus, go onto the website, look at the other video testimonials, and look at the written comments, and you'll see the people that were in this program are raving fans. That's why they gave me the first name and their last name and the city where they live. They are real people, and they had real progress with this program, and they want to shout it from the rooftops that this program works. If for some reason you have any doubts about the program, or if you have any questions about the program, reach out to me directly. You can text me, call me, or send me an email. My contact information is on the site. If you sign up for the program, I'm looking forward to getting to know you and watching your progress. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I wish you tremendous success in the future. Have a great day.